like, just, spend the next day. He got spiritual, but I thought he was going to say, just spend the next day eating as much as humanly possible. No, it's terrible. I apologize. So speaking of 21 days, you can scan that QR code on those orange cards there. And what that'll do is a couple things. It'll give you a little bit of information. But it'll also enable you to sign. This is very, very important because we didn't print the physical books this year. It'll give you the ability to sign up for my daily devotions. We will send it to the entire church list for 3 days. But then on day 4, if you have not opted into that devotion thing right there, then you will not get those daily. And I want you to receive those so we can all be on the same journey together, okay? So check out that QR code, or for sure you'll have an opportunity day 1, 2, and 3 to opt in from the email that you will receive if you are part of the mailing list. If you are not a part of the mailing list, also scan those QR codes and you will see a place where you can join in to that as well. Next, you heard them talk about Growth Track. Growth Track is an incredible way for you to not only figure out how can I get plugged in, how can I learn more about the vision and values of Declaration, but how do I learn about myself, how God's created me, uniquely wired me and crafted me for purpose. Because here's what we believe. God created you on purpose, for purpose, and our joy is to help you begin to discover exactly what God created you for. And so that's what Growth Track's about. Be sure to be a part of that if you are interested. Lastly, during this 21 days, for the next 3 Wednesdays, we are going to be meeting at the Declaration office, the warehouse, for a time of prayer from 7 to 8 p.m. I want to encourage you to be a part of that time of prayer and worship together for 3 Wednesdays as we focus our hearts together. We align our lives with the Lord together. And honestly, I believe that we're going to see God do some incredible things. And so, man, be a part of 21 days. Start right. Start this year right. Amen, everybody? Start this year right, okay? And there's also, I know that we sent this email out. There's a lot of information about fasting. If it's kind of foreign to you, if you've got a lot of question marks about it, I put together a really large document comprised from a bunch of people that I really respect that I feel like just have got so much good content on fasting, and that is also on an email. If you would like that, please see me after the service. I will make sure that you get that information before tomorrow so you can pray and say, God, how would I be a part of this? Okay? That's all that I have to say today. It's been a good Sunday. Have a great week. We'll see. I'm just playing. We're gonna dive in. Okay, so there's a story in a periodical that I read. This periodical called Bits and Pieces. It's from March of 1994, where they're talking about this group of friends that go hunting. They go deer hunting. Do I have any deer hunters in the house today? Any? Good. You're not hunting today. That's good. You're here. That's good. In fact, if you're here, you have a perfect church attendance record this year. Way to go. So these guys, these friends, if you will, they all go deer hunting, and they pair off 2 by 2 for the day, and they go out to hunt. And that evening, as they're all coming back, one of the hunters returns alone. He's by himself, but he's staggering under the weight of this 12-point buck. And when the other guys see him, they look at him, they go, hey, where's Billy? You know, one of the guys said, where's Billy? And so the guy that's carrying this deer says, well, I think that Billy might have had a stroke or something, but he's just a couple of miles back up the trail just that way. And they're like, wait, what? I mean, you left him just lying there, like in medical need with an emergency, and you carried a deer back? What's wrong with you? And the hunter said, well, here's the thing. I figured that no one would steal Billy, so it's terrible. So, it's a terrible joke. Sounds like a terrible lapse of judgment and priority a little bit. I mean, poor Billy, right? And as crazy and as ridiculous as that story sounds, here's the truth, man. I think that we can often find ourselves many times with our priorities completely out of whack, right? I mean, it's easy to do. It is easy to do. So here we are, the beginning of a brand new year, January 2021. Welcome to New Year, New You, right, everybody? Yeah, New Year, New You. It's the time that I'm supposed to talk about things like vision and New Year's resolutions and did God give you a word for the year? But man, can I just say, instead of casting vision for you to have new vision, for this new year, this new restart, I kind of feel like we're just in a little bit more of a somber place right now. Am I reading the room correctly? I just kind of feel like it's a little bit more somber. My sense is that while we love moments of reset, and we need those moments of reset, and I do believe it's a time of reset, it's a moment of reset, my sense, though, is that God has been actually trying to get our attention for quite some time now, telling us to not just reset, but also remember. Remember him. Remember who he is. Keep perspective. So a little over a month ago, I was drawn to this book in the Bible that further highlighted, in my opinion, a message that God has been declaring. I think he's been declaring this over us for many, many months now. All throughout, I would say, the majority of 2020. Starting with the oil crunch, remember, late February, early March of last year, it started with an oil situation, a global oil situation. That obviously led into the COVID pandemic. And don't forget the plagues of 2020. I heard about locusts that had turned into these oversized murder hornets. I don't get that. Followed by the craziest, probably political landscape I think any of us have ever seen in our entire lives. And through it all, here's what I really genuinely believe has been going on. I believe God has been saying, come to me. Call to me, follow me, trust me, lean on me. This is what I believe God's been saying. I believe he's saying, come back to me. Come and be renewed by me. Come and find rest in me. Come and get a reset in me. Come find alignment. Come back to proper priorities. I believe this is what God's been doing all throughout this season. And so as the book of Haggai opens, it's somewhere around September of 520 BC, after 70 years of exile and being able to finally return into Jerusalem. These people, upon their arrival, when they return after all these years, they realize everything had changed. How many of you feel like it's like you woke up from some weird dream and you look around at the landscape around you and you think, man, it feels like everything's changed. So in describing their situation, Pastor James Boyce writes this. He says, gone was the glory of the former kingdom and temple. Gone was the great population. And all that was left was the rubble of what Jerusalem was, the remnant of the people of Jerusalem, and the task of the restoration of Jerusalem. So we see that even with this being their situation, the city begins to have They begin to have some sort of normalcy again. Now just see if this is not tracking with you. They begin to see some normalcy again. Homes were being built. Stores were being opened. Businesses were being created. Commerce was being established again. Fields were planted. Crops were harvested. They even tried to rebuild the temple, albeit they didn't have a lot of success. And then something terrible happens in the midst of all of this, quote, new normal. Something terrible happens, and they get content. They find themselves sitting in a place of contentment, but not in a fully satisfied sort of contentment, but more so a lackadaisical sort of apathetic contentment, like settling. They had even gotten used to life without the temple. They didn't take care of God's house. The foundations were probably overgrown with weeds. Can you imagine kind of a picture of that in your mind? And this is what's happening when the prophet named Haggai comes onto the scene. Haggai being a contemporary of the prophet Zechariah and a complement to the prophet Ezra. Much like Zechariah, both prophets of the Lord, they addressed the remnant left in Jerusalem. Or, basically, they're talking to those who had returned after Babylonian exile of the Jewish people. And their message was this: get your priorities in order. That's their message. Get your stuff straight, is what they're saying. Put first things first. Put God first and rebuild his house. So that's the message that God has given to these prophets to deliver to the people of God. Look at it with me. Haggai chapter 1, verses 1 through 7 this morning. It says this: in the second year of King Darius, on the first day of the 6th month, the word of the Lord came through the prophet Haggai to Zerubbabel, son of Shealtiel, governor of Judah, and to Joshua, son of Jozadak, the high priest. And this is what the Lord Almighty says. He says, these people say, the time has not yet come to rebuild the Lord's house. But then the word of the Lord came through the prophet Haggai. Is it a time for you yourselves to be living in your paneled houses while this house remains a ruin? Now, this is what the Lord Almighty says. Give careful thought to your ways. You have planted much but harvested little. You eat, but you never have enough. You drink, but you never have your fill. You put on clothes, but you're not warm. You earn wages only to put them in a purse with holes in it. This is what the Lord Almighty says. Give careful thought to your ways. So, as I'm reading this passage over the last weeks and considering the backstory, it became impossible for me not to see the parallel to where we are right now. It doesn't take much to think of what was going on with those that Haggai is addressing and how we find ourselves basically needing to hear that same prophetic word. I believe right now in the year 2021, this word is just as relevant for you and me today sitting in this house as it was for those remnant from, exile as Haggai was speaking. Now think about this. In that day, they had endured a great sense of loss due to the glory of what had been being seemingly gone. There was a certain glory that they had lived in for so long, and it's just gone. And so they're dealing with the great sense of loss. I think that we can understand that feeling. Many right now are mourning what we were, what our society was, what we perceive our country, what it used to be. There's a lot of mourning going on. So it's easy to understand that. There had been also a great population loss due to only this remnant coming back from exile. Now, for different reasons, we've seen a population loss. We've seen loss due to sickness. And to those people, all that was left was the rubble of what was the former Jerusalem, the remnant of the people, and the task of restoration. And there are many today that feel like, right now, even some of us in this room, there's so many that feel like that we're on the verge of looking at a shell of what our lifestyle, our country, our society used to be. And there are so many unknowns. And as God has been shaking and sifting our world over this last year, it's becoming more and more apparent that as a people and as a society, we have so much work to do in order to bring restoration in so many ways. But remember, these that Haggai was speaking to, eventually, they got comfortable. They found a new level of settling again. They found a new normal. They even started building homes. They owned stores. They operated business. They restarted the economy. Does any of this sound familiar to anybody, or is it just me? Are you picking up what I'm laying down? They got satisfied enough in their status quo. And they had gotten used to even life without the temple. Now, don't miss what I'm trying to say. Because it would be very easy for someone on the outskirts to listen to what I'm saying, knowing what we've been doing with Movement Initiative and say, oh, I see what you're doing, Pastor. You're teeing this up to speed the light on us building that building. Nope, that's not what I'm talking about. In fact, the word temple here, the way I see, the way I'm reading this, the way I'm feeling this right now, they had gotten used to life without the temple. Did you know that according to Barna, who does nothing but research Christianity and Christians, according to Barna, 33% of those that claim to follow Jesus passionately, that actually went to church at one time, will never come back to church ever again because of COVID. Why? Because they got used to life without the temple. We got afraid, we got scared, we started running to other things. We went online and we got used to life without the temple. It was easier now. We had more time over the weekend to spend time with family. That's a good thing, but we got used to life without the temple. But God hasn't told me to go back to church yet. No, God never said not to go to church. In fact, he said, don't forsake the assembly. But see, we got used to life without the temple. Do you see it? Pastor John, I can't be a part of church because, COVID. And you know what? I hear you. I really do. But I also feel a need, prophetic or not, to kind of call something out that I've been seeing coming for a long time. Something that probably sounds super mean and heartless. And that's not what I'm trying to sound like or be. I'm not. But if we all got honest, there's been a level of COVID cover going around for quite some time where we have made excuses in the name of COVID to not do something that was maybe inconvenient for us or something that we didn't really know if we had much value for anyway. And some of that is in Christianity, and they got life. Life became used to being lived without the temple. It has nothing to do with the building. It has everything to do with your walk with Jesus, with your relationship with the Father, with your intimacy with God, with your connection with His bride, the church, with your encouragement, with your growth and your discipleship and your nourishment. But they got used to life without the temple. And so, yeah, I feel the need to call it out. And here's the irony, too, is you see so many people on social media doing all the things, but they can't go to be a part of church anymore because they're scared of being in the temple. You can do a lot of other things. And here's the thing. I've heard so many people pulling away from church, from Christian community, from this church weekly, y'all. It's the most depressing thing that I see when I get the email. I just don't feel connected. Why? Because you got used to life without the temple. That's why you don't feel connected. You don't choose to do you don't choose to engage God. You don't choose to engage in Christian community. You got used to life without the temple. You don't feel connected. You're going to go find a new house. Maybe you'll get connected there. But guess what? If you keep doing what you were doing, you will get used again to life without the temple. You won't feel connected there either. See, your connection is not to a place. It should be to a person. See, and here's the great irony. The generations, ready for this? The generations that not long ago that were championing books like Radical and Crazy Love are the same generations that are running in fear now. And they've gotten used to life apart from the temple. But here's the truth. We will always engage in and make time for those things that we want to choose to engage in and make time for. And this is exactly what Haggai is speaking to on behalf of God, rebuking the returning remnant for their misplaced priorities. Look at it again with me. Let's break it down. Haggai chapter 1, verse 1. In the second year of King Darius, on the first day of the 6th month, the word of the Lord came through the prophet Haggai, and he delivers it to Zerubbabel, the governor, and Joshua, the high priest. And this is what the Lord Almighty says through Haggai. He says that these people are saying the time has not yet come to rebuild the Lord's house. I mean, even after, but hey, dude, Haggai, chill out. We tried. We started to, but we failed. But even still, they managed to build their own homes. They managed to rebuild their businesses. They managed to rebuild their lifestyles, their brands even. But what of God? What of His house? And here we see God call them out for their posture and their position as it pertains to the truth of their priorities. Verse 3, then the word of the Lord came through the prophet Haggai. He says, is it a time for you yourselves to be living in your paneled houses while His house remains a ruin? Now, this is what the Lord Almighty says. Give careful thought to your ways. He's saying, you better think about it. In other words, He's saying, you better back up. You better back that truck up. He's saying you better check yourself before you wreck yourself. Now, can I get any more clear? The language of the New American Standard says it like this, and this is the title of our message today. Consider your ways. He's saying consider your ways. God's message through Haggai continues in verse 6. He says, you've planted much, but you've harvested little. You eat, but you never have enough. You drink, but you never have your fill. You put on clothes, but you're not warm. You earn wages only to put them in a purse with holes in it. And God's saying, look at the fruit from the futility of your focus or your lack thereof. You plant a lot, but you harvest very little. You eat, but you're not full. You drink, but you're never satisfied. The clothes you have don't even keep you warm. And the money that you earn, those wages... For what? You still don't have enough. I mean, it's as if there's holes in your pockets and your purses. It's useless. It's toiling, He's saying. And here's the truth for us today. If our priorities are not in focus, right critical focus, our lives will end up feeling pointless and frail. Verse 7, this is what the Lord Almighty says. Give careful thought to your ways. And listen, with as much love as I can say it today, I believe this is what God has been saying, and he's been screaming this to us over the last 8 months. And I think he's saying it again right now, lovingly, as we enter into 2021, as we close out a year that so many of us wish would have gone so differently. I believe God has been saying and is still saying to us, consider your ways. Consider your ways. If we have missed it, if we have somehow allowed ourselves to find a new normal and grow comfortable or settled, or as comfortable as we can be, or maybe some of us have just decided to double down, man, it's just business as usual. Nothing ever really happened. I've seen that too. Have you met people, you come across them, and it's like nothing's ever even happened. We're just going to keep going the way we were going. Everything is fine. Nothing to see here. Move along. We're still so focused on doing our best to ensure that our way of life isn't challenged too much. We have to consider our ways. What if God didn't create us to functionally live the way we've been living? I mean, I believe all throughout this last year, by shaking our economy, by shaking our way of life, by shaking our freedoms, by shaking our independence, by shaking our government, by shaking our healthcare. Think about this. God has literally shaken every idol that we give so much of our attention and our affection to. Every idol that we end up prioritizing over him. Man, we love our money. We love our freedoms. We love our entitlement. We love our sex. We love our health. And God has over and over and over tried to get our attention, to let us know that we have played the harlot far too long by choosing whatever list of vice to worship rather than him. Lovingly, day after day, breath after breath, he continues in his extravagant love, in his expensive and his extensive grace, and in his expansive mercy. He continues to intimately call to us, asking us to consider our ways. And what do we do? What do we do? Well, like these that Haggai's preaching to today, we make excuses. I mean, I do. Let's get real. Do you? I do. I'll make excuses. I mean, remember verse 2? Well, these people say the time's not yet come to rebuild the Lord's house. We make excuses. God, I'll give you priority when my kids get older. God, we're busy, man. I don't have time to serve and do those things that I feel like you're asking me to. I'm busy. I'll give you priority when I get older. I mean, right now, dude, season of life, I got to work. I got to get mine, God. Got to put it in the bank. Church, all that stuff just don't fit. I got to make stacks, papers. God, I'll get in the word later. God, I'll give when I'm a little bit more financially stable. God, I'll pray later. I don't have time right now. God, I'll get my family in church one day. One day. We have to consider our ways. We got to think about our priorities. It's time. It's past time that we begin to put first things first. I mean, no one's going to do it for us. No one's going to do it for our family. Men, can I just speak to you for just a moment? Just one moment. No one else is going to do this for your wife. That's some great conviction I've been under over the past few months. No one's going to do this for your wife. It's high past time for the season of our wives to stop being forced to lead spiritually in our homes. I mean, it's happened simply because either we as men, we've either become too lazy or worse, because truthfully, maybe everything else really is more important to us than God and even our family. I don't know. No wonder why our families and our cities and our country and our world is so messed up. And listen, I don't want to be too hard on all the guys, but listen, we are God's anointed and appointed leader of our homes. It is the way he ordered it. We are the picture that God has given to our children of who he is. And you and me, Jesus told us to love our wife as Christ would love, or God told us to love our wives as Christ loved the church. Jesus died on behalf of the church. Can I say this? Fathers will stop feeling like failures if they put first things first. placing their focus on God first and foremost. So you want things to work right. You want to live in peace and joy. You want to live in real satisfaction. You want to have a happy life, a happy wife, and happy family with very little strife. I made that up. You got to consider your ways. Consider your ways. Commit to putting your priorities in proper order. We got to put first things first. We got to God is giving us a chance to reset starting today. Starting today. Starting now. Haddon Robinson. You may have never heard his name, but he was a respected author and pastor and seminary president. And in a sermon on priorities one time, he pointed out that he had found, and it was talking about this old recipe that he had come across at one point or another for this incredible dish that featured rabbit as the main course. Now, I've never looked at a rabbit and thought, yeah, I'm going to eat you. I've never done that. But nevertheless, to each your own, whatever. So he starts by reading from the recipe on how to create this incredible culinary delight of a dish featuring rabbit. And he starts with this. He says, first, catch the rabbit. See, the creator of the recipe knew the imperative importance of putting first things first. You're going to need a rabbit. Catch the rabbit. And that's exactly what we do when we establish right priority. We put first things first. We put the things that should be in the first place in their proper order. See, some of us need to go back to the recipe, right, and catch the rabbit. We need to go back. We got to put first things first. I'm going to end with this. Someone once asked famous Dallas Cowboys coach Tom Landry why he had been so successful as a head football coach one time. And here's what he said. He said, well, in 1958, I did something everyone who has ever been successful in life must do at some point or another. So he's recalling, he's like, it was 1958, and I made a decision that was bigger than a decision. It was a commitment that led to a conviction, basically. See, we make a lot of decisions daily, but do we really commit to walk through that decision with a conviction? He goes, it was 58, this is what I did. I determined that it was time to get my priorities right for my life. In comparison to another coach who shall remain nameless, who actually coached for the Cowboys once, who, when he was a college football coach, had a trophy wife because as a college coach, you had to go to a lot of events and you had to have to look the part and meet the right people and press the right flesh and do the right things. And that coach basically, as soon as he made it to the NFL, he dumped his wife as fast as he could because he couldn't have the inconvenience. He even said, yeah, I never even bought my kids Christmas presents because I didn't have time for them. Here's Tom Landry saying, wait a minute, in 58, I finally had to get it right because it wasn't what it was supposed to be. He says, so I determined my priorities for my life, and what I determined was this. My priorities would be in this order. God will be first. My family will be second, and football will come third. This is Tom Landry. And I know that sounds simple, doesn't it? Sounds simple. But man, how easy it is for us to even, man, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. 21 days, I'm going to do it. I'm going to read my Bible. I'm going to do it. I'm going to serve. I'm going to do it. Man, it's so fast that we can get our priorities out of focus. But listen, there's such good news today. There's such good news for you today and me. Our God is a God of ridiculously generous grace. I mean, just ridiculously generous. So we can start 2021 right. We can put first things first. And God, in his kindness, continues to give us breath in our lungs. He's given us so many warning flags. He's done so many things to get our attention. But he continues to give us breath in our lungs because guess what? There's purpose for us. There's purpose for us. And truth be told, we will never know the fullness of the abundant life that Jesus died to give to us until we yield our life and put first things first. Can we pray together? What is he saying to you today? I'm going to invite our prayer partners and our elder families to just kind of go to that back orange sign, that big welcome home sign in the back. And this morning, we're going to stand in just a minute and respond to the Lord. And if you need prayer in any way, I want to invite you to go and allow them to just minister to you for a minute. Team's going to lead us. In fact, go ahead and stand to your feet. And just going to sing a little bit of this song. And as we put first things first as a body today, as a church, we're gonna come to the table, because what a great day to do that together. But before we do that, let's take some time with the Lord. And let's consider our ways. And let's ask God to maybe point out anything that he may find in us that might grieve him. That point out areas that might need to be realigned. And there may be even some of us that may need to go to our spouse and just confess some things and say, I'm putting first things first. And receive that forgiveness that you know is going to be there anyway. Not only from your spouse, but from your Father too. But let's take a minute, ask God to clean our hands, purify our hearts, that we can start right. And let him speak to you for a minute as the team leads us. If you need prayer, go ahead and make your way back.
Hey, thank you again for joining us today on the very first Sunday of the year 2021. Now, real quick before you go, I just want to take a little bit of time to join in with God as he's inviting you to take that next step with him. Now, if you're at home right now and you're wondering, what is this next step? Well, that next step can look a lot of different ways for everyone. And so maybe for you, that next step is simply surrendering your life to Jesus. You know, the Bible tells us that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, and no man comes to the Father except through him. So that if that is you, man, I just encourage you, be praying, and you know, all you got to do is admit that you're a sinner. You know, believe that Jesus is who he says he is, that he came down from heaven to earth, that he lived a perfect life, that he was crucified on the cross, and 3 days later rose again. And he did all of that for you. And then the last thing is just, man, commit your life to him and just spend time with him, spend time in a secret place, and man, just begin that walk with him. And maybe for you, that next step is really you're just looking for a church family. Well, we would love to be that family for you. So if that is you, man, you can connect with us with a few different ways. You can just check us out online at declaration.org, or you can email us at amen@prayerdeclaration.org. And we would love to connect with you. Guys, this is a big Sunday. You know, 2020 is officially over and the new year has begun. And so let's spend some time together. And even, you know, I invite you again that the 21 days of prayer and fasting is starting tomorrow. And so join in with us and be a part of that. And just let's pray together as a church family and as a united body of Christ to pray for our communities, our country, for the whole world as this new year starts off. And let's join together and just, man, let's put this year in the hands of God. Thank you again for joining us and being a part of today's service with us. We thank you so much, and we love you, and we are praying for you. We cannot wait to see you again. Happy New Year.